Hey guys, the giveaway that I did last week, courtesy of Blizzard, if you have won, I will have contacted you. So just check your notifications to make sure that you've got a message from me. And if you've got a message from me, you have won a code. Go use it. It's worth a little bit. Hopefully you get up an extra level with the stuff that you get. Now, let's get into this video. And yes, there is a random PC next to me. I'm probably taking some parts from it. I'll let you know. I think that I have found a Hogger deck, and maybe even this can be applied to other decks, but it's working really well in my Hogger deck at the moment, is that I think people have overlooked potentially one of the less used Blizzard talents, Brittle Ice. Enemies within take 30% additional damage from physical sources. I have been using this, and I have to say, I think it's pretty broken with Hogger right now. Blizzard in general is pretty good, but this particular talent, especially in a Hogger build, makes a lot of sense because 30% extra damage, it might not seem like a lot, but in Warcraft Rumble terms, that's a lot. That is a lot of extra damage that you're getting from physical sources with Brittle Ice. So I decided to take this for a spin with a Hogger deck. I'm going to show you the entire Hogger deck here. So, Hogger, Ham Hock, the standard talent. I know we did a poison talent build at some point, but it requires a very specific deck to make work. Bubble on our Murloc Tidehunters. I am running Polymorph, but I don't find I use it that much with this deck because I'm kind of running Blizzard, which does the same thing. So there is a world where I might end up changing Polymorph out, but it still has its really good uses versus things like Drakkisath or other decks where you kind of need, like, versus other Hogger decks, it can be pretty clutch as well. So I'm keeping it in for the time being. Polymorph's just generally quite meta at the moment. We've got Legendary Quillbore with Bramble Burst. We're running Dark Iron Miner because in most of the maps, there is a reason to use Dark Iron Miner. And he generally is going to get you a lot of gold value. We're running Mighty Throw on Griffin Rider. There is a kind of, obviously, there is a world where we use airdrop, but in Hero's Resolve, I don't actually think it makes that much difference. I'd much prefer just to have a safer Griffin Rider that can trade more effectively, and of course, we're using Brittle Ice. Let's break into some games. Before we do, though, I just want to show you Brittle Ice working on a tower, because I think it does work on bases, and this is the whole reason that I picked it. You can burst down bases really quickly with Brittle Ice, so I'm just going to show you that. Okay, so, right, let's do a little experiment. 1. Pause. Bring up my lines. Let's get this right. So that was that swing worth of damage. Now, we're going to let it go out until the Blizzard drops. Right now, and that is that swing worth of damage. Where's my lines? So that is that swing worth of damage. They look identical. It's difficult to tell. The one on the right looks ever so slightly bigger. But what is 30% of that? I think we need to zoom in even more. Okay, guys, you've got to bear with me here. I think we need to zoom in even more to see if we're gonna go all the way in here. We'll do it below where we did it previously. Okay. Let's go forward. Right, Hogger's coming in. Hogger hits. Let's get out the lines. Hogger hits there. And there. Okay. Let's get going. Let's wait for Blizzard to stop chunking away a little bit. Now it comes off, and Hogger hits. I think this looks a bit more noticeable now. There. And there. It definitely looks bigger. And that could even be 30% bigger on the right. But do you know what, guys? We need to go even further. So we're going to zoom in even more here. You can't see my face because we're zooming in again. All right. This experiment has been 100% worth my time. Right. Hogger comes in, I think in a minute, and he gets a hit. Right. So where's my lines? My lines are here. One line. Nice. That's That's basically right. I mean, it's not pixel perfect, but right. So there's next hit. Right. Guys, it definitely looks bigger. Whatever. I'll let you guys be the judge. It looks relatively convincing to me. I think we can maybe go with the fact that we think that brittle ice applies to structures. And it's a not an insignificant amount of damage. I just need to make sure I line this up now. Oh God, I don't even know if I've done it properly. Yeah, this is probably fine, isn't it? That's fine. Yeah, there we go. Right. Over. Experiment over. Let's get into the games. Okay, so the first game we played was versus a Drakkisath, which is interesting because Drakkisath is a deck that can be quite difficult to play if you're not running Polymorph, and obviously I'm not actually the best at using Polymorph. I actually find Polymorph quite difficult to use, but it's a slow deck. So one of the things about Drakkisath that you have... Oh, God, I've still got this in like 50% speed. 1 second. Let's get it back up to 100% speed. The entire... Do you know what, guys? I didn't realize we could actually run this at a much quicker speed. Let's run it at like 130% speed. That'll speed up, talking about things. I got absolutely battered by a Thaurissan twice because I was trying to figure out my deck. Anyway, here we go. Right, we can do a lot more pause as well because we can get through the sort of the hard parts. Now, on this level, if you're running Dark Iron Miner on Alterac Valley, I tend to try and go like super aggressive with my Dark Iron Miner placement. If they're running Quillbore, you can get punished, but if they're not running Quillbore, you can often get away with just getting some free gold and denying their Kobold the easy gold path. So I quite like doing this. In this case, he didn't get his Quillbore down quick enough. He did have Quillbore, but he obviously had to rotate to it and didn't get it down quick enough, so I got at least 1 gold out of this. And now we're going for what I usually like to do is kind of like a heavy air presence over the bridge. You really want to get air onto the bridge. Establishing bridge air dominance or like ranged dominance over the bridge is the most important part of this map, because then it then gives you control over these gold chests and generally sets you up for success on this map in general. Now, one of the major problems with Drakkisath, and he's not running a Shaman Drakkisath deck, he's running a Witch Doctor Drakkisath deck with Holy Nova. One of the major problems with Hogger decks is that you take a little while to scale. Like, Hogger is a deck that takes a while to get going, right? So you just need to kind of weather the storm sometimes in some of these matchups where you're obviously going up against something super strong very early on. In this case, I'm trading a little bit of base HP or like just sacrificing my Hogger HP because I'm intending on then later using it down the line to, basically using Hogger as a bit of bait because I know that later down the line it's not going to be as big of a deal. And my Hogger will start to be much more impactful. Now, we didn't unfortunately get that chest. I was a little bit upset by that because ultimately it was like 1 basic attack and we would have had that chest, but we didn't get it. He's cycling out Drakkisath pretty heavily. This is the Drakkisath deck, which is, I'm assuming, is more about cycling Drakkisath than it is about sort of making Drakkisath a mega 1-push threat, because he is running lots of cheap units alongside his Drakkisath, and he's also running Dark Iron Miner, so he's looking to generate as much gold as physically possible. So this deck, the Drakkisath is still going to be weak to physical damage, which is perfectly fine. Now, again, what we're doing here, I really shouldn't have dropped my Hogger that early. There was no real need to drop my Hogger that early. He did end up just using I think it was a Holy Nova. He must be running Amplify Magic on Holy Nova because he's not getting the armored buff from it, which, in my opinion, with Drakkisath HP pool would actually be much better. I'm not going to try and contest his Dark Iron Miner. Can't really do it. What he has done, though, is he's given up mid control, which is the most important thing for me here. And you can also see the amount of damage I'm also doing with the increased physical damage on Drakkisath, which is quite nice. But he's given up mid control here, which is great for me. I've taken so much damage to my base, but this is not irredeemable. I've now got mid control back. I now also have a massive gold trade in my advantage. I've just seen him drop the Witch Doctor, and he's probably going to drop a Drakkisath here as well. This is my chance to strike, and this is where we are going to see Blizzard, I think Brittle Ice, do its thing. on the tower. Just watch this. Hit. It's really chunking it down, like really chunking it down. And then afterwards, the hits go down in volume, obviously, like in sort of size, but basically won the game off one push using Blizzard and Hogger. Really excellent. And now I just need to essentially cycle out to Blizzard to make sure I win the game. Drakkisath's super slow. He's obviously trying to defend, but we end up winning with Blizzard, which works really nicely. So that's a good game. Yeah, here we go. This is a game versus, obviously, Thalnos is pretty good in the meta right now, but has some weaknesses. One of those weaknesses is kind of Hogger, because Thalnos relies on polymorph sometimes to deal with some of these bigger threats, like Hogger, for instance. The other weakness that Thalnos has is, hilariously, Quillbore. Quillbore is really good at making Thalnos feel bad. And in this case, this is what I've kind of done here. I've just gone, we're going to try and make Thalnos feel a little bad. Now, he got a really good polymorph onto my Hogger there, and obviously has set up a really strong push in this situation. But again, I've said before, and I'll say it again, not expecting, I'm not expecting Hogger to beat many decks early on. But in this case, we had a really good turnaround. We got a good Blizzard in that situation. His polymorph was not fantastic because he was not expecting me to Blizzard and also turn around his Thalnos with my Quillbore. And now we have him on the back foot. So in this situation, I'm actually just going to even go for a Blizzard straight away. And obviously Quillbore does deal physical damage, so did a little bit of damage there. We'll polymorph because we have the Hogger coming up, and we didn't quite get the extra gold, but it's not a big deal. We actually got what we wanted, which is just getting some damage now onto the base. And you can see that Hogger is now chunking away damage on the base in this situation, which is great. Thalnos obviously can scale up really quick. A little bit slow, honestly, a little bit slow on my Quillbore there. We're going to go straight into a polymorph. Not going to last long enough to make a difference on Thalnos, but it just lasts long enough to make sure that my Hogger gets onto the base. And we are once again sending another Hogger out here. Ghoul really tanking my Hogger like an absolute beast. Ghoul is a total monster. Like, that unit is very good, just a little bit slow. Only kind of, in my opinion, only kind of works in decks that are a little slow in general. But yeah, we're going to see Hogger come in, one bops the Thalnos, and we end up winning the game pretty quickly. The thing with Thalnos, and the general principle with dealing with Thalnos, is the earlier that you can deal with him, the better you're going to be. Often in decks that revolves around using Safe Pilot or using Polymorph, etc., Thalnos' health doesn't scale that high, so your damaging spells and your damaging units are still going to chunk him out quite well. It's more his damage that scales up really highly, which is what people tend to do, is they try to really hyper level a Thalnos, get him to the base, and then just start like blowing up your base in 2 hits. So the quicker that you deal with a Thalnos, or the more that you force the Thalnos to use defensive spells rather than just kind of clearing your stuff, the better you're going to be. And in that case, it was just about getting Hogger onto the Thalnos. Hogger will beat Thalnos one-on-one as long as Thalnos doesn't then polymorph the Hogger. And that was pretty good. I think this is a mirror matchup. So we're going into, mirror matchup versus another Hogger player. It's an interesting one. We're going to go very aggressive here. So what we're doing is, obviously, we've just seen him use a Quillbore, which is okay. We're not that bothered about the Quillbore. Hogger gets baited. This is a really nice bait by him. Hogger gets baited. I don't think it was intentional. We actually have a really terrible start here. But Hogger gets baited by the Kobold. And then that brings Hogger back over towards the enemy's Dragon Tower. And also just puts me in a pretty crap spot in general. But we're okay because this guy is not running Dark Iron Miner. And that's the one thing to note. And what you'll find is a little awkward in some cases. If you're not running Dark Iron Miner, you'll often feel that you are just getting behind in gold on the map versus other Hogger players that are running Dark Iron Miner. In this case, even though I had a bad start, was able to essentially come back into the game with Dark Iron Miner. Usually, if I didn't have Dark Iron Miner and he did, that start would have been a complete death sentence for me. I genuinely mean it. That would have been a complete death sentence start for me. Now, I'm just waiting a little bit here. I don't mind that my Murlocs pull Hogger off to the side. I'm doing this to try and protect damage on my base. Once again, he's using the Deep Breath cycle. I've actually gone off Deep Breath as a spell. It is good, and it does do comparable damage to Blizzard. Just really like Blizzard in this situation. Getting a load of chunk damage, doing a load of damage. It's really good when you're on the offensive. Not so good when you're on the defensive. That's where Dragon's Breath comes in a little better. I just think the Dragon's Breath overall is just much stronger on the defensive side of things. You'll see this is why I like to include Polymorph from time to time. Just Polymorph right in front of the Dragon Tower makes it very difficult. You see here, Hogger gets a couple of nice hits with the Blizzard. Again, not entirely sure if that Brittle Ice affects the towers. It's, again, up for debate. I think I'm going to go with the fact that it does. And you're also seeing why, by the way, Dark Iron Mines in this situation are just really good on this level. They just, the complete control of that middle island is super nice. And we just end up cycling out, get a couple of good Blizzard pushes with Hogger. And he can't compete because he doesn't have Dark Iron Miner, so can't keep up with the economy. And there are no chests to kind of like either focus on. Like sometimes when you've got a Dark Iron Miner in the enemy deck, you kind of go for chests because that's going to give you the economy to kind of keep up with the Dark Iron Miner, but not in this case. Okay, this is... Do you know what, guys? Really interesting. Until the latest patch, I was never playing on this map. I don't know how you guys were, but I was never playing on this map, Gadgetzan. Until the latest patch. I wonder if there was an issue where this map just wasn't getting served. I must have played upwards of like 60 or 70 PvP games, and I was just never getting this map. And I have a feeling they might have accidentally disabled it. But either way, love that this map is back. It's really cool. We're going into a Jaina matchup versus Goliath. He's a really good player. In this, I like to play a bit slow. Obviously, we have the chest that spawns just here. And you kind of want to play a slower melee unit to go and take that. Spawns around 15 seconds into the game. Obviously, the name of the game is control of this gold area. I think he might have just cycled the Dark Iron Miner just in case. He was a little early there, though, which then has basically allowed me to kind of get away with going for Dark Iron Miner of my own. In this case, we're going to go for a Blizzard. You're going to watch this here. We're going to Blizzard. We're going to actually deal a lot of damage to his Harvest Golem in this case. And that sort of helped us quite adequately deal with the Harvest Golem. Obviously, there's a bit of a threat going on to our own side here. And versus a Jaina, again, this is one of those situations where I'm not expecting to win early on. I'm just trying to stop him from getting a huge amount of base damage down. That's one of the main problems that I have with Jainas, is that they obviously are just able to outtrade base damage much more effectively in the early game because they can use Deep Breath, they can use Execute. You can see here, I'm like very close to losing my side tower because he's been using Execute to go for it. Very old school Jaina tactic, obviously. And here I'm just going to drop a Hogger right in front. There is a good opportunity to use Blizzard, which is what I'm going to do. Blizzard's going to help me get through the armored of that ghoul. And that was actually a really, really, really good Blizzard for me. And we're very close to kind of wrestling back control, because once you've cycled Hogger this many times, you've got the Hogger Ham Hock going, you've got the speed going, you've got the attack speed going. Very, very strong in general. You can see really chunking down his side tower here, but he's only one execute away from taking my side tower, which he does. I will immediately respond by going for the Murloc Tidehunters, because that is going to basically try and put some pressure on. I'm nearly done, darling. Sorry. Anyway, so we're then going for again, control of this middle area. We retake our tower, which basically means that all of his executes were kind of wasted. And this is the point in the game where Hogger's going to start to really come into his own. Run straight past that tower, because there's no need for it to even be attacked by Hogger, because my Griffin Rider's had it. And he's kind of like, he is going for this this side tower over here. But we do, with our Murloc Tidehunters, take that down, and then we should be able to take it back with the Griffin Rider. In the meantime, we've dealt a load of damage to his base, and this is where you're going to see the clip of me using my lines to assess whether Blizzard was actually doing anything. We are going to pull the Dragon Tower away with Quillbore, and then again, this is what you've seen earlier. It's just, how much damage is my Hogger doing with Blizzard? And then it feels like it's doing a little bit less without Blizzard as well. Spawn another Hogger. We're level 17 Hogger at this point. Like, it's not going to get affected by the stun. One thing that you should know is that the stun from pretty much anything in the game is affected by level. So you'll notice that when Hogger kills the Harvest Golem, he's not getting stunned for 1 billion seconds. The reason being is that the stun is massively affected by level. We're going to use the Blizzard once again, and then we do end up getting the win. So there we go. Think it's good. Look, ultimately, even if Brittle Ice does not affect structures, it still allows you to kill units quicker. So it'll help you chunk through Harvest Golems quicker, Baron Rivendares quicker that are armored. That 30% extra physical damage is essentially offsetting sort of 3/5 of that physical damage reduction that you get from armored. So it's a good way to respond to armored if you don't have a way of removing the armored. Like there are very few ways in the game to remove armored. One of them is Deep Breath, and one of them I think is like Warsong Rider. So there aren't actually that many other ways to remove armored in the game. So I think this could be a cool deck. New tech. I think it works. Tell me what you think.